Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes, and oh my goodness, Chapter 37 of Kaiju number 8. Okay, this will be the spoiler-free review. Now, this is such an amazing chapter. On the one hand, it played out exactly as I saw it playing out. I had thought of several different possibilities, and several different manga tropes that might show up, and 3 of the main ones showed up. And so, on the one hand, this chapter was exactly what I expected it to be, right down to the very method that the main character uses to achieve his goals. And on the other hand, it is just so well written, so well drawn, so well laid out in the panels that it took me 45 minutes to read it because I had to stop every 2 pages and just let my emotions air. It was that good. And reading it felt both incredibly quick and incredibly long. It's not a real content-dense chapter, but oh my goodness, am I going to get so many content videos out of it. But okay, what can I tell you that isn't a spoiler? Not that much happens. So what does happen is that the situation from the last chapter continues, and we get a very, very interesting revelation from Commander Shinomiya, Director Shinomiya, that is not something that I was expecting. Yes, there was one thing that I was really not expecting in this chapter, and that came from the words that Director Shinomiya says. And of course, I'm going to go into all that in the full spoiler video. But yeah, this was just an amazing chapter all around. Okay, now, what can I say that's not spoilers? The first page is, because this is such an intense chapter, they don't drop you right into it. So the first page is pretty much just a recap of the relevant parts of the previous chapter. So that was pretty good because the pacing was just so intense on this. And it has been 2 weeks since the last chapter. The recap actually felt really, really necessary. I went and I read through every panel of the recap because I really felt that the whole 14-day wait time just kind of stole some of the details from my brain. So I was really grateful for the recap, and generally I just skip over recaps. But this one didn't just feel good, it felt necessary. Then, of course, we have the continuation of the fight from chapter 32 and the continuation of and you have the outward physical fight, of course, and the inward fight. I'm not calling that a spoiler because we're all manga fans and anime fans. We know how that goes. You have the inner fight and the outer fight. And because this is entirely about the fight, I can't tell you much about that without giving spoilers. One thing is, though, we do get a very interesting moment where it's classic Kafka. It's not a spoiler. He is truly thinking more about others than about himself. And yet, he's not the perfect protagonist. The author makes him very self-sacrificial and very pure of heart and pure of motivation without making him saccharine or unrealistic. As you watch this chapter, you see that Kafka is very, very human. He is motivated by the same basic selfish desires that motivates every other human, but he is trying to be more. He is trying to be better. I think that's the appeal of Kafka. He's not perfect. He's far from perfect. He is very human and flawed, and his motivations are on one level extremely selfish. Going back to his main motivation of the series, to be by Mina's side, that is ultimately a selfish motivation. He wants something for himself that is very valuable, a place by Mina's side. Right now, Hoshina has that, and Kafka has stated that he wants to take that from Hoshina. Now, he wants to take it legitimately through honest combat by making himself more valuable than Hoshina, but it is still a selfish motivation. And we see something very like that in this chapter. Ultimately, Kafka, being human, is more driven by his selfish motivations than by his selfless motivations. But he still has those selfless motivations. They are still a huge part of what makes him. And you have in his body, he's trying to fight, trying to regain control of the body from the kaiju. And you see both these selfless and selfish motivations playing out, all against the background of Kafka's self-loathing. And that's very interesting because he really sees himself as a failure, even after no matter what he's done in the past that was good, getting the job and being the most valuable member of the cleanup crew, getting onto the defense force, making himself valuable to the defense force. It's all nothing in his eyes because he hasn't achieved that goal, that actually fairly selfish goal. If he hasn't achieved the goal that he has set out for himself, he considers himself a failure. And this is both very humble and extremely arrogant. If you've ever read the works of C.S. Lewis or George MacDonald, they address this arrogance of the human brains thinking it knows better than the universe, than God. And here you have Kafka. He hasn't met his goals. So in his mind, it doesn't matter how much good he's done in the world. He is judging himself according to his standards. And even though he is being fair and impartial, that's still very arrogant, demanding that the world meet you on your standards. And so I think that is just the brilliance of this character. He's so flawed, and he's making so many obvious mistakes of self-care and in his thoughts, but they're so common to humanity. I really feel like this man is my brother, if not an extension of myself. Oh man, that feeling that when you step back and look at yourself, and yeah, I can see that I have accomplished a lot in my education, in my work. I can run with the big dogs. I've published a book. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in science with honors from a prestigious university, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I had my dreams. I had my vision of where I was supposed to be in my life by now, and I haven't met that vision. And so I always feel ashamed when my parents praise me because I feel that I failed myself and therefore I failed them, but I haven't failed them. According to their judgment, I've been a very good, very satisfactory daughter, and it is arrogance in me to reject their praise and their love because I feel that I haven't earned it. And you see that same arrogance in Kafka. He is rejecting the praise and approval of the world because he hasn't lived up to his own expectations. And that arrogance nearly gets him killed. Killed, double killed. It's a complicated scene. And so, oh my goodness, and Kikoru, her character development in this chapter, and let's not talk about this chapter, her character development overall, she's incredibly powerful, incredibly strong. She's one of those ones who has exceeded and met all the expectations, but she's still a 19-year-old girl. She's still very emotionally fragile and something that really only Kafka has recognized in the series, and he's trying to protect that and take care of her. And that's one of the main parts where his selflessness comes in. He sees her as a child and he doesn't want to hurt her, but he is still a selfish being, so no matter how much he doesn't want to hurt her, oh my goodness, this is the perfect protagonist. If I had to rate, oh man, I can only pray that someday my abilities to create protagonists will be on the same level as this author's. He feels so real, so human, and I wouldn't even call him an idealized human. He is just, in the classic Western definition of it, he is a good man. And he's the kind of man that you want living in your neighborhood, that you want marrying into your family. He is the kind of man upon whose back civilization itself rises. Flawed, damaged, and just doing his level best. Okay, I really hope I didn't give any spoilers. I've mostly been trying to discuss things from previous chapters that just show up again. And like I said, there was only one thing that actually genuinely surprised me about this chapter, and that is the hint that Commander Shinomiya drops. And it's not something he says directly. You kind of have to interpret it from what he says, so I'm not calling it a spoiler. But it's not even really character development because we've already seen all this in these characters. I just really, really enjoyed this chapter, and it hurt so bad. Oh my goodness. And now it's going to be another 7 days, so I am going to go back online and talk about this with all of my nerd friends. And I think I'm going to seriously have to force one of my siblings to start talking with me about this. So I'm coming for you if you're listening. All right, check out the links below the video. Humans Are Weird. I Have the Data, a book of human absurdity if you need something to cool down and chill your emotions. This is just a nice, friendly chuckle with moderately well-done protagonists who are just being weird. Then if you really want to wrench your emotions some more, if you're not ready to come down off of the emotional high, Dying Embers, Dragons, Aliens, and Things That Go Boom in the Night, not to be read on public transportation and not to be read without tissues, I've been told. And hit that like, hit the subscribe button. We are up to 94 reviews on Amazon. Remember, when we hit 100 reviews on Amazon, I'm going to do a book giveaway. Also, the audiobook is coming along nicely. I hope I will have the audiobook done for my patrons and the Indiegogo backers by the end of this week. If not, by the end of next week. I've only got 28 more chapters to narrate and 2 extras to finish narrating, you know, the acknowledgments and stuff. You gotta narrate them for the book. It's necessary, but it's just an extra chapter. All right, so Humans Are Weird. I Have the Data, link below the video. Like, subscribe, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
The book from author Betty Adams, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, is a humorous look at human behavior through the eyes of aliens. This book is arranged in separate reports or essays, documenting the experiences with humanity through the lens of the aliens who have to interact with them. This anthology of short stories and vignettes from alien points of view highlights some of humanity's quirks we can all relate to. Author Betty Adams captures how strange and interesting humans can really be. This is a fun collection of stories you will really get a kick out of. Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, from author Betty Adams. Order your copy right now on Amazon.